And the solution for the week this week could replace the entire internet. It's the new Freenet, and developed by Ian Clark, and has been in development and running for 25 years. It was one of the first peer-to-peer distributed networks. So this next version of Freenet, which is currently in development, it's been making a lot of waves this year as Ian Clark has been interviewed by Futo, has completely been written from the ground up. It's a lot different than previous versions. And its new version, it claims to potentially be a replacement for the World Wide Web. So what is Freenet? Well, you would use it through the web browser, and you could connect to other Freenet peers in this distributed network, accessing shared data and interacting with distributed applications and even creating your own. And so I'm going to be giving you just a simple overview today. It will be oversimplified so we can understand it. So going on the website freenet.org, you can think of Freenet as an end-to-end operating system for decentralized apps, where the apps and data are entirely stored on Freenet. So this is kind of different than other Web3 platforms, which do not store data or they're not interactive. Those are the two main things. Or if they are interactive, they're not interactive in real time. Most other Web3 networks use blockchains as their storage mechanisms, which are great, but you can't do things like edit or subscribe to updates. So Freenet is supposed to change that. And it's also a small piece of core software, smaller than 10 megabytes for the core software, so it could be bundled into other software. And what it is, it's essentially a giant or a global key value store shared across a peer-to-peer network, or a dictionary. So a dictionary is really simple. It's got keys and it's got values on the other side. You can pick anything you want for your key, and then you can search the key later on to be led to its value. In a normal dictionary, you would look up a key and get a value back. In a Freenet, the key itself is a program. It's WebAssembly code, and it's referred to as a contract. So you can think of contracts as the decentralized applications which run inside of Freenet. And these contracts are written in WebAssembly, which WebAssembly is a portable assembly-like language, so it's close to machine code, which means it's super fast, it's near native performance, but it allows for you to write programs in different languages, such as C, C#, C++, or Rust. And these can be compiled into WebAssembly, then they can be imported onto the web, and they can be run within a web browser. So that's how they can be loaded into Freenet as these contracts or apps, and that's how people can write their own apps and then immediately have that become available on Freenet. Now, this functionality of writing these decentralized apps is not ready yet. It's still a work in progress. People aren't allowed to make changes to the mainnet yet, but they will soon, it looks like. So on the other side of this key value store is the value, which is the associated data that contract is managing. And so the contract, the key, can also manage the data. So it can do things like authenticate when people try to change the data. Hey, is this the right person? Are they signing with the correct public key? Or they can manage anyone who changes the contract. So cut that last part out where I said, or they can manage anyone who changes the contract. So peers or anyone on the Freenet network can read a contract state and subscribe to receive immediate updates if the state is modified. Now there's this whole communication protocol that achieves this, where Freenet will you can look at the difference between your data and the current data of the contract. But what this really means is Freenet can be used for near real-time applications with interaction. So imagine being able to have a decentralized chat, which is really unlike any distributed network in the past. And for speed and scalability, the routing mechanism uses small world routing, a specialized version of this, where each peer keeps track of the performance of other peers, and as it picks up certain pieces of data, it also tracks how fast it received the data, and over time it can learn which peers to go to for which data. It's also important to note that Freenet is an ephemeral network, which means that the data is not meant for long-term storage, and it has a kind of a shelf life on the network. So data will only be fresh and new only if there's a repeated effort to save it on the network, and it will disappear over time, which is pretty interesting. And again, it really makes sense for a real world, real time type of application. It's not meant to store large videos or to make sure things are uncensorable. You'd have to do extra work to save those things. It's just meant as an alternative to the internet for interaction. And all of these design choices, I think, are really sound and allow for rich web applications to kind of replace what we're doing currently in the web, the way we use the internet today, without having to rely on centralized infrastructure. But there is one area of concern that I've found that I was very surprised no one else had mentioned, or maybe everyone else is getting shadow banned like me. Here's the GitHub issue that I posted. Turns out GitHub shadow banned my account pretty soon after. It kind of sucks because I had mentioned something else for the EU digital identity scheme that was relying on Google Play services. I guess no one's been seeing that comment and no one is seeing this issue, and they just made me feel like, oh, someone, I got my voice out there. So that kind of explains why I didn't hear anything back. But fret not, because I did make the issue and I will make it again with a real account. Now, this area of concern has to do with Freenet's reputation mechanism. And every network has to deal with this reputation account. You know, it's people coming on, spammers coming on to the network, throwing a bunch of spam out. You ban them in a centralized network, someone bans them, and they just make a new account and they start again. So in a decentralized network, it's harder to get rid of them unless you have some sort of reputation system. So what Freenet decided to do, which they have covered in this video, there's a video here, watch a discussion about it. So what they have talked about with Fudo is that they're going to use a donation as the foundation for the reputation mechanism. So you donate to Freenet, and when you do this, your browser generates a key pair, and the public key is blinded and signed by the server. So that means the public key can be certified by the server without actually knowing the public key. You get it back, you get a certified public key, which is like, hey, this public key donated to Freenet on this date, and that's the foundation to your cryptographic identity on the platform. Now, there's only one problem that I'll show here. To get this ghost key, as they call them, the foundation to your identity, you have to donate with Stripe. This is a little Stripe widget down here. Stripe is one of the biggest payment processing companies on earth. Now, this is a huge problem because Stripe is a centralized payment processor. I mean, they have all these records, and there's also a timestamp of when your key is generated. So imagine giving a donation. Obviously, that record within Stripe, look, you don't have to put in a name, that's great, but you still have to put in a credit card number. Now, Stripe has a record of when you donated to Freenet, and also if they're watching the Freenet platform, they can get this information about when a key was generated, and boom, now they know which credit card is tied to which identity on Freenet. So that kind of throws the anonymity and privacy out of the water, blows it out of the water, which really Stripe is the only entity that would be able to do this. I'm really surprised that there's not a cryptocurrency option, and I would be surprised if Ian Clark didn't know about things like BTC Pay, which is a self-hosted payment processing server that can use Bitcoin, it can use Monero, and that could have been implemented here. Now, I know this is a pretty bad start to the reputation mechanism, and I let them know in GitHub issues, but I was shadow banned, so they probably won't get that. But this is just a really bad idea for people's privacy and anonymity. And so for them to succeed, they've made a lot of good choices, but they need to fix this as the basis for this reputation mechanism. And maybe they could increase the price to, if you're paying in crypto, to make it $100, because you're not relying on the verification of someone having a credit card and their identity being in Stripe. Now they need to pony up more money so that a spammer couldn't go ahead and it would cost them $100 each time they decide to spam or to abuse the network. I'm really excited about this software. I see myself developing applications for it. And so we want this to have a reliable reputation mechanism and not be reliant on a big tech payment provider.